All right, good morning. The August 22nd, 2023 School Land Board meeting will come to order. This meeting of the School Land Board is being held in person at 1700 North Congress Avenue, Stephen F. Austin Building. Access to the meeting by members of the public was published in advance in the Texas Register in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any member of the public who wishes to address the School Land Board may do so during the public comment period. Will the board secretary please call the roll? Here.
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 All right, there being 3 members in attendance, a quorum is present, and I will now call the August 22nd, 2023 School Land Board meeting to order. We are going to start with our pledges, so if you will stand, please. So we'll begin with our pledge to our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now to our state flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, no yeehaws out there today. Not in my Senate district. I'm telling you, man. Rowdy crowd out there. Okay. The first item on the agenda is item number 1, approval of the minutes of the June 29th, 2023 School Land Board meeting. Would any board member wish to discuss this item? No? Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval.
All right. And I need a second.
Second?
The motion moved and seconded. I believe it passes with unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is item number 2, public comment period. Members of the public may address the School Land Board concerning any matter within the authority of the board. As chairwoman, I am limiting the length of time available to each speaker to 2 minutes. Board secretary shall keep track of time. Do we have anyone in attendance who wishes to address the board on any board matter at this time? All right, so moving on, item number 3, approval of the consent agenda. For the record, items 3A1 was pulled from the consent agenda prior to the meeting. Members, you wish to extract any items from the consent agenda to discuss or vote individually?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then would you like to discuss anything else before we start doing?
Commissioner, I got a question, yes. On the agenda, we've got in A, it goes through 27 in our packets here today. We don't have all of those in here. Does that, I received them via email prior to, but they're not in our books. Is that an issue? Just, it stops in 17 in these. Do we need the rest, or?
Thank you for noticing that. Yes, let's double check on this and see.
But we got them via email.
The actual reports.
Got it.
The actual reports is what I meant, sorry. I received it via email.
Right, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Curley. The board can either extract the items you didn't receive, or if there's even though it's a consent agenda, if one of the staff members, if you'd like to have one of the staff members address those items that were not in your packet, it's the chairwoman's discretion.
So I did review them, Chairwoman, so, but I didn't know if we needed them here today.
Yes, that is obviously ideal to have it all in our packet. You know, the other option is to just.
Uploaded revised packet this morning. Should be in the packet.
1, 2, 3, 5.
Okay. So I think, has everyone, so we did, because they were sent digitally, so the digital version's correct. The printed
Yes,
version is
that's correct.
short a little bit. I think we're fine as long as everyone's had a chance to review it, but if any members wish to have us print them out to be sure they're included physically in the book, we can do that as well.
As long as they'll be a part of the record, then, yeah, I'm okay with that.
But thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
We're saving trees. No, I'm teasing. We're running a tighter ship. Okay. What other questions or discussion? All right.
None other.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, and we amended it because we removed 3A1. So we, okay. So, okay, then all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Okay, it passes unanimously. Next items, number 4, 5, 6, and 7 will be in executive session. The school land board will enter closed session to discuss item numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7 pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, for consultation with its attorneys regarding the matter involving attorney-client privileged information and legal issues, and Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, to deliberate on certain matters concerning real property. Following the closed session, the board will reconvene in open session to complete the docket. Visitors should remain in this room as the board will reconvene here following executive session. All right, the open session of the August 22nd, 2023 School Land Board meeting will resume with item number 4, which is consideration and possible action on recommendation to waive first right to purchase the state agency property owned by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Brazoria County, Texas. The chair recognizes Amber Long to present item number 4 to the board.
Good morning, Amber Long, Asset Management. Item number 4 relates to the waiver of the first right to purchase a tract of land owned by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. This tract is approximately 12.019 acres, and it's located along a railroad tract looking to expand. It is required under Texas Natural Resources Code, Sections 31.158 and 31.159, that this right be waived prior to any disposition of the property. Staff recommends this waiver as being in the best interest of the state and the PSF. Any questions?
Members?
No questions.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Move for approval?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion is made and seconded and carries unanimously to approve item number 4. Next, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 5, consideration of and possible action on request for reduction or waiver of penalty by APR Operating LLC, and I recognize Nick Orman to present item number 5 to the board.
Good morning. Nick Orman with the Office of General Counsel. As the Commissioner said, item number 5 is a request by APR Operating to waive penalty associated with the lease compliance review of 4 leases in Reeves and Culberson counties. For the reasons discussed in more detail in executive session, but particularly in light of the fact the operator paid the penalty and interest within a month from receiving the final bill, staff would recommend a $20,000 waiver of penalty, which would result in a total collection of 94.85% of the assessed bill. Happy to answer any questions.
Members?
So what was the full penalty before the waiver?
The full penalty before the waiver was $35,133.
So there's a $15,000 penalty still being levied,
Correct.
plus.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to move to waive the penalty in this case, given the good faith nature of the party and paying their fees and their interest and everything within a month, that's a real gold standard of compliance, and we want to incentivize that in the industry. And so I'd just move to waive the entire extra $15,000 to send that signal to the industry.
Okay, so is that a motion then?
That's a motion to waive the penalty.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. All right, so
Thank you.
we have moved to reduce or to eliminate the penalty. We still need, I think, then to vote, because we still have the interest, right, and the fee, or are we done at this point?
The royalty and interest have been paid in full, and the motion before the board was to waive a portion of the penalty, which has been now
Okay.
fully waived.
Perfect. I just want to be sure we're dotting all of our i's.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you all.
So we're ready to move to item number 6. Consideration of and possible action on GLO staff recommendations for CO2 storage leasing on submerged lands in the greater Corpus Christi area. And I recognize Ken Mills to present item number 6 to the board.
Good morning, Chair and Board. I am Ken Mills, Director of the Oil, Gas, and Energy Section in the Office of General Counsel. I'm presenting item 6, also 7 immediately after this, which are similar, and if I could beg your indulgence for a minute, just to put some of this into context. As you know, the school fund, which at the end of the last fiscal year had a corpus of almost $57 billion, making it one of the handful of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the country, it exists to support public education. This past fiscal year, the operations of the board and the land office put $2.1 billion into the school fund. And an unofficial number just from oil and gas revenues in this fiscal year have generated over $1.5 billion. And that money is both a direct source of funding for public education and also is available to as security for bonds issued by school districts. And in the 40 years that availability for bond support has existed, over $250 billion worth of school district bonds have been issued that have been secured by the strength of the school fund. Much of that strength comes from oil and gas revenues. Much of it historically came from the Gulf of Mexico. As you may know, the state or the school fund owns out all of the Gulf of Mexico out to the 3 Marine League. It's approximately 2.5 million acres in total. The Gulf has been relatively quiet as a source of oil and gas revenue, however, in the last decade or so. And the items 6 and 7 are opportunities for the board to help generate additional substantial revenues to put into the school fund from this asset that's owned by the school fund. Moving on to item 6. The School Land Board had authorized the issuance of a request for proposal for leasing certain identified tracts in the general vicinity of Corpus Christi for sequestration of carbon dioxide. That RFP for those tracts was issued in March of this year. Bids were received. They were reviewed by a panel of staff and graded. And I'm here today with a staff recommendation to have the board authorize staff to finish negotiating leases and then for the commissioner to sign leases that are consistent with the RFP and with the proposals made. And those recommendations are for the Port Aransas North tract and for the Mustang Island tract. And in both instances, the recommendation is that the lease be negotiated based on the offer by a joint venture that's made up of Repsol E&P USA, Carbonvert, Mitsui E&P USA, and POSCO International America. So that's the recommendation, is that we move forward with those negotiations for those 2 leases. I'd be happy to, and as all is further explained in executive session, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions?
The number on top of page 2, the aggregate total, is that the lease signing fee, or is that projection, or?
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. That is the signature payment, the bonus.
Okay.
That on signing the leases, the total, it's based on a per acre calculation, the total bonus paid to the school fund is that $25,702,000 plus number.
Okay.
And then going forward, there would be additional rentals and injection fees over the life of what would ultimately be probably a 30-year lease, although the front end of that is some due diligence work that the lessee would need to undertake.
How long, RFPs were sent out when?
March They were published on March 9th of this year. There was a 90-day response period, so March, April, May, June. I think that the recommendations were made sort of mid-June.
And then when did this process start? This was last year sometime, or?
Yes, and I'm sorry I don't know the date of the land board meeting when staff came to the school land board to say, we would like to issue RFPs in these areas. I don't, it was sometime in 2022, and I don't remember the month.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Mills, can you talk about the projected revenue values presented to the school children in Texas because of these projects?
Yes, with the caveat that these numbers get more and more speculative as you go off in time, both because they're based on acreage, and after operations begin in the proposed leases, the operator would have the ability to relinquish acreage, which we could then offer for lease again. But so the acreage amounts might reduce. And then some of these projections are based on a minimum annual injection that's a requirement in the lease, and there are consequences if the lessee does not meet those minimum targets. But so, with the caveat again that we're not really sure exactly how many metric tons of CO2 will be injected, but based on minimum numbers, this portion, so signature bonus, annual acreage rental, injection fee for these two leases combined is just under $6 billion over the course of the next 25 to 30 years.
$6 billion.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so a signature bonus for these two, that means on the day these are signed, what would be
Yes.
the revenue in the next few weeks for the school children in Texas?
Possibly the next couple of months, to be
Couple of
honest.
months. Won't get everybody too excited. Yeah.
But yes, as soon as possible when those leases are signed, it is $25,700,000.
And then for the first year rental, the annual rental for the first 5 years, really. but
First 5 years
first term.
is in the neighborhood of $43 million. And then the injection fees make up the rest of it would be almost $5.5 billion for the total of almost $6 billion over the life of these two leases.
Right.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting. Thank you.
All right, other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move for approval.
I second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion's made, seconded, and carries unanimously on item number 6. Mr. Mills, you're on deck for item number 7, consideration of and possible action on GLO staff recommendations for CO2 storage leasing on submerged lands in the greater Houston area.
Thank you. Again, Ken Mills, Office of General Counsel. And with a similar forward to the last item, this item is in relation to the RFP that was issued for certain identified tracts in the Galveston area. I know I said Houston area in my memo. I'm from Houston. I always think of that part of the state as being Houston, but I think that the RFP said
The phones are going to
Galveston.
ring. Galveston's going to be calling.
And so, after again receiving multiple bids on these multiple tracts, and after a careful analysis by a panel of GLO staff, we're here recommending that the board again authorize staff to finish negotiating leases and for the commissioner to then sign a lease that falls within the parameters set by the RFP and the responses. We're recommending the issuance of 4 leases. For the Galveston West tract, that lease would be to BP Carbon Solutions. And then for the Bolivar North tract, the High Island tract, and the Jefferson West tract, that all 3 of those leases be issued to ExxonMobil Low Carbon Solutions. In anticipation, or I should have said this before, for those 4 leases to.
Maybe just run through kind of the total, since we've approved 6, we can lump them in with this one if we
Well,
approve this one.
the
That'll be easy.
total signature bonus, if all 6 of these leases are signed, is around $133 million. And so that would be due at execution. And again, then adding in the per acre rental and the injection fee over the life of, say, 20 to 25 years of injections, that total into the permanent school fund is over $10 billion. It's close to 10.5. These projections show 10 billion, almost $350 million.
So just to repeat that, almost $10.5 billion estimated using conservative numbers in the next 25 years for the
Yes.
school children of Texas.
Yes, ma'am. For an asset we didn't know we had 2 years ago.
On only 6 leases.
Yes.
Very good reason not to sell land and a very good reason to acquire more. Just saying. You never know what it's going to be worth someday when you don't think it's going to be worth anything. Members, additional questions?
I move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Motion passes unanimously. You're on a roll, Mr. Mills. Thank you. And this concludes the posted board agenda. Does any board member wish to be recognized to provide any further comments or discussions? Okay. There being no further business before the School Land Board, the August 22nd, 2023 meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.